Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be my recap of Marry My Husband, Season 1, Episode 13. So it opens with, of course, it picks up where the previous episode left off, where Yura catches up with Minwon. And so they're talking, and I think he's asking her, like, he's just trying to get an understanding of what's going on. And she says to him, well, your girlfriend stole my fiance. And so we flash to Sumi, who's in the apartment, and she's on the phone, clearly talking to Ji-won's mom. She's asking her if she's stupid. Like, why would you ask her for money, you know, directly like that? And so, Sumi was basically like, you know what, just forget it. She's going to, she's going to go a different route. So, we flash to Minwon. He's still talking to Yura, and she's basically giving him a proposition. You know, basically, if this works out, she'll get Mr. Yu and you and K and have this comfortable, cushy life. And he gets to punish Ji-won for betraying him. And so she, told him that when he makes a decision, basically to let her know. So the next day, I think at this point it's the evening, Ji-won is on the elevator and Minwon gets on the elevator. And then he attacks her. And he starts asking her, like, when did you know that Mr. Yu, who Mr. Yu really was? And she basically told him, well, you're just now finding out. She was like, well, I've known for a long time. And then she tells him, I've always been better than you. And so he's trying to make it seem like it's her connection to Mr. Yu that caused their relationship to fall apart. And she ends up telling him, you forget, the reason our relationship ended is because you slept with Sumi. And so at this point, she'd already need him. So he, in the girl one, so he was on the ground, kind of moaning in pain. And she walks out. And then she was leaving, his, Mr. Yu's friend, homeboy, who was a fake delivery guy. He shows up and he was bringing her food. And he was telling her that Mr. Yu told him to bring her the food and to give her his number, I guess, in case, she needed something. So, of course, Minwon, he's getting in his truck and he saw the guy. And he recognized the guy as the delivery man that came to the department there to Ji-won's apartment that night. And he also recognized him from that night he got kidnapped and they scared the crap out of him. And so now, of course, he is pissed because he felt like he'd just been had. So, of course, he makes a beeline right to Yura and, either they talk for a bit and she ends up telling him, I'm starting to like you. It seems like it's going to, us working together is going to work out. And so then we flash to Suk-jun and Mr. Yu, and Mr. Yu has put some legal paperwork in place. I guess if something happens to him, that whatever he's supposed to have, or a portion of it, is supposed to go to Ji-won. And then Suk-jun hands him another envelope, and he says something about, well, this might be a little bit more difficult, but at this point we don't know what's in that envelope. And so we flash back to Minwon and Yura, and she informs him that, because somehow she knows that what Mr. Yu, him leaving her, some of his assets. And so she informs Minwon that, well, Ji-won is worth about $80 billion. So, of course, Minwon is shocked. And then, of course, she promised him 100 times more than that if he eliminated Ji-won. And then she made some remark about Ji-won and Sumi's relationship, or how they're, it's almost like they're sisters or something to that effect. And so he went home. And he confronted her about keeping secrets from him. And of course, she's like, what are you talking about? And he says, you tried to use Ji-won's mom to basically extort money from her, and it failed. And then, he informed her about her being worth $80 billion. And told her that if something were to happen to her, then of course that money would go to the nearest relative. And so, of course, Sumi is not making a connection. I mean, why would she even say anything? But she was like, oh, so if something happens to her, then it'll go to her mom. Do you think her mother would give her some money? And so he is holding her hand and was like, why is this so hard for you to tell me? And she's looking at him like, I know your dad is still alive, right? So then we flash to her father, who is being basically beat up by some thugs. He owes some money, and they came to collect, but of course he doesn't have it, and they're basically telling him that you need to get our money, or you already know what's about to go down. So around this time, Sumi shows up, and she was like, "Where's that woman that you live with?" And of course, Ji-won's mom pops up from behind the counter, so she's known all this time where Ji-won's mom has been, because Ji-won's mom has been with her dad. He's the man that she's been having an affair. She had an affair with and left her father for. So we go to Mr. Yu. He shows up to Yura's apartment, house. I'm not even sure. And he has this other envelope, and so it's a certificate. A stock certificate, and it's basically the transfer ownership to her of two of their subsidiaries. It's two companies that are very lucrative, right? And she is basically questioning why, he's doing that. And so they take the conversation to another room, and she makes some comments about, "I like to see men uneasy," or some weird comment she made. And he basically told her, do you want to do this? Because remember, whatever you could do, I can do as well. And then he was like, "No, I can do it much better." And so as he was leaving, he tried to hand her the envelope again, basically like, "You take this and stop doing whatever it is that you're doing." And she says to him, "Love eventually comes to an end. No, have your fun now, because love eventually comes to an end. And when it does, then you can come back to me." So he left with the certificate in hand because she didn't take it, and he ripped it up. And then he called Soo-jun and basically told him that he wanted him to do some research on Yura and what's going on. So what he didn't know was Minwon was there, and he overheard the entire conversation. And so Yura basically told him to eliminate Ji-won, and he would clean up the mess. So we flash to Sumi. She's still at the diner. She has this bag full of money. And she's basically paying her father and Ji-won's mom to do the dirty work. And so, of course, they owe all this money to these people, so they accept it. They took the money and has decided they're going to go through with it. So we go back to Yura in her apartment, and I guess she's trying to figure out what's the best way, that they can approach it. And her guy basically says that, well, Ji-won's the death anniversary of her father is coming up that weekend. And so she decides that that's going to be the time to make the attempt. So we flash to Mr. Yu, and Soo-jun calls him, and he finds out that Ji-won's mom illegally rented a dump truck under a fake identity. And that's when they both realize that if something were to happen to Ji-won, that all of her assets and whatever he's going to leave her will automatically go to her mom, because she's her next of kin. And so that's how he ended up on the road in the previous episode, where he got between her and the dump truck, and of course he took the impact. So we flash to Yura, and her guys coming in basically saying that Mr. Yu had cut in between, and he got hit. He's now at the hospital. And so she says that, wait a minute, the daughter and the woman is still at the hotel, so most likely he went back to the hotel, so just go and check. So we go to the hotel, and because Yura told Minwon to get his wife and go home and don't do or say anything until she contacts them. So he's now back at the hotel to collect Sumi, and Sumi's having a full-blown breakdown. Her father and Ji-won's mom has taken the money and they are gone. And Sumi is pissed. She was like, "I can't believe my father abandoned me again." And how she hates Ji-won's mom, and it's all Ji-won's fault, and just craziness, right? So we go to the hospital, and of course his grandfather's sister Soo-jun, and I think some security, they arrive to get an update on his condition. Someone pulls Soo-jun to the side and basically saying they know who the driver was of the truck. And Ji-won overhears, and she realizes, she was like, that wasn't an accident, was it? And you can see Soo-jun just looking at her. And so she's pissed. So she calls Sumi, and Sumi was was ecstatic to just jump up and run to go meet her. And so, of course, she's questioning her, like, how she could do something like this. And, of course, Sumi, always faking like she don't know what the hell's going on. She was like, well, how could you think of killing someone? Then she tried to blame her miscarriage on Ji-won. And, of course, Ji-won was like, girl, pregnancy, just get the hell out of here. She knows that Minwon is sterile, so there is no way that Sumi could be pregnant. If she is pregnant, it's not Minwon's. And so she's still trying to save face, and Ji-won finally snaps and just starts screaming at her, like, stop lying, like, why are you always lying? And so she ends up telling her that you don't know this, but when your mother left you, your mother was having an affair with my dad, and, you know, basically she feel like Ji-won's mom stole her dad. And so then you have a flashback of Sumi when she was a kid. She was texting her dad. She was trying to get in contact with her father, and then her mother comes in and basically told her, you basically screaming like, you didn't hear me calling you. I need some help. And basically, why are you home anyway? I guess she was supposed to be at school. And then her mom ends up telling her that she hates her. Right. So this woman was nasty. She was nasty. So, Sumi goes out to look for her dad, and she's calling her dad. And that's when she saw her dad and Ji-won's mom together, and the phone is ringing. And so she could see him seeing the phone ringing, seeing that it's her. And he didn't answer, the call. And then she hears Ji-won's mom saying that, are you thinking about raising her? If you do, then basically I'm going to get my daughter and I'm going to dump them both on you and I'm going to leave. And so this is when I guess she finds out that Ji-won exists. And so that's when we get she's on the school bus with Ji-won. She steals her wallet, and that's when we get the episode where she walks into the convenience store, like she found her wallet and she's turning it in. And so when they actually meet and become friends. And so she could see the difference between, her father was crap, but unfortunately for Sumi, her mother was crap too. The flip side is Ji-won's mom was trash, but her father was a sweetheart. And so because they were friends, when he would come in to give Ji-won give her allowance, he would also give Sumi an allowance. So she was very envious of the fact that, Ji-won had at least one parent that actually gave a damn about her. And then so we flash back to the present, and Sumi was like, well, why do good things always happen to you? And that's when Ji-won was like, you think that trying to make me suffer for basically what our parents did was going to help you at all? And then she tells her that you weren't the only person who knew. I knew as well, because remember when she followed her dad in the rain and she saw them together, so she knew as well. And then Ji-won basically says, I realized that it's like she, basically came back to her senses. Like, I realized why you're in the situation that you're in, why your life turned out the way that it has. And she ends up telling her, but basically it's not over, and there's still a lot more hell that you're going to go through. And so we flash to Miss Yang. She is walking very quickly away from her parents' restaurant. So June is out there again, sitting in his car. He eventually gets out and goes to see what is going on. And of course, you realize that Miss Yang saw her husband and I guess that woman together. And so she kind of runs off. And so he catches up with her and basically confronts her. It was like, why? Basically, you need to go back and confront your husband and gouge his owls out and kick him and punch. And, I got a golf club if you need one. And and then he says to her, asks her, like, why can't you get angry? Like, why do you, bottle stuff up? And she basically said, her desire is that, I'm good to him. And basically I wait and keep waiting, basically saying that she's waiting for him, I guess, to see her goodness and somehow that he becomes a better man. And we're coming to the realization that that's not going to happen. So we flash to Yura and she gets an update. The police are basically going to drop the case. They are going to basically treat it like it was a drunk hit and run, whatever the case may be. And he also told her that he knows where the parentals are. So Ji-won's mom and Sumi's dad. And she's basically like, we're going to catch up with them later because we can't have any loose ends. So we go to Sumi and Minwon. Minwon is fast asleep. Sumi gets into his phone and she gets the number to Yura and she reaches out to her. And so in the final scene, Mr. Yu wakes up and they basically confess their love to each other. And that is pretty much how this episode ends. So I'm going to end this here and I will talk to you guys later.